Forget the fairy tales about teamwork and locker room brotherhood. Elite athletics is an absolute bloodbath, a ruthless battleground where cold, hard cash reigns supreme and feelings are slaughtered on arrival. In this unforgiving ecosystem, only a single unyielding law applies. The price tag attached to your name is the only thing that dictates your actual existence. You fall into one of two categories: the powerhouse dragging the financial train forward, or a mere stowaway enjoying the scenery. You rely entirely on someone else's horsepower to reach your destination. For close to 25 years, the WNBA functioned precisely like a caravan of hitchhikers, operating a supposed empire that continuously bled massive amounts of capital. The entire operation stayed afloat for one reason alone: a financial lifeline extended by the NBA. Behind the scenes, however, an incredibly loud faction of seasoned athletes developed a truly mind-boggling superiority complex. These individuals viewed their own shadows as legendary, fancying themselves as the invincible queens of female athletics. And then, everything shattered the second Caitlin Clark walked through the doors. The moment her sneakers hit the hardwood, she completely decimated historical ratings, injecting an unprecedented flood of billions into a previously stagnant industry in the blink of an eye. Yet, instead of dropping to their knees in profound thanks, the stowaways refused to cheer. Their immediate instinct was a hostile takeover, desperately attempting to steal the incredible wave she single-handedly unleashed. The spectacle we are witnessing today goes far beyond a standard union disagreement. We are watching a magnificent, agonizingly slow corporate suicide. Right now, the Players' Union is holding a match to the powder keg, threatening to obliterate the 2026 campaign completely. Their ultimatum features astronomical guaranteed paychecks, complimentary mansions, and a jaw-dropping 50% slice of the entire pie. It is the exact equivalent of holding a cocked weapon to the temples of the elite ownership group. The old guard is desperately spinning a fantastical fairy tale, hoping to convince the world that this massive tsunami of fresh audiences actually showed up to support union politics. They operate under the grand delusion that threatening a boycott grants them god-tier bargaining power, but their entire game plan is crumbling into dust right before their eyes. In a brilliant twist of poetic justice, the exact prodigy they attempted to bury is the very one ripping the mask off their entire charade. Caitlin has simply transcended the poisonous, ego-driven battlegrounds that define the current state of the league. During her time at the USA National Camp, she delivered a tactical knockout punch that will forever be studied as an absolute masterclass in athletic diplomacy. She uttered zero insults and completely ignored the pathetic digital mudslinging. Instead, she let her presence quietly declare that she is the undisputed golden goose of the entire industry. The league requires her very breath to stay alive, while she could walk away tomorrow and never blink. Those viral clips emerging from the global squad are far more than just workout highlights. Those videos serve as a devastating mental weapon, fired point-blank at the old guard attempting to ransom the entire organization. The sheer joy, the electric atmosphere, and the relentless pursuit of greatness on the world stage expose exactly how incredibly petty and venomous the domestic union squabbles truly are. With quiet grace, our superstar has radically inverted the entire hierarchy, leaving the established system staring down the barrel of a terrifying reality check. So, they are running through some baseline exercises on the floor right now. Let us sit back and watch these absolute maestros work their magic. Chelsea toss a blind dime straight to Caitlin. A quick lateral move. The absolute beauty of this moment is the pure, undeniable fun they are having out there. It is incredible to witness. All right, Angel dishes it inside to Stewie. Flawless execution. You can definitely notice our Iowa phenom building a serious bond with Kelsey on the sidelines. What exactly is the agenda today? Paige is over there screaming again. Honestly, that girl turns everything into an outrageously vocal spectacle lately. You feel zero friction in the air. The crushing weight of corporate warfare is completely absent. What you see is Caitlin, Brianna, and the terrifyingly talented future of American dominance on the hardwood. They are grinning from ear to ear, battling fiercely, and chanting USA with unbreakable unity. These women are basking in the absolute zenith of their physical abilities. They are showcasing elite mastery of a craft they genuinely adore without an ounce of misery in their spirits. Throw that breathtaking scene up against the suffocating, pitch-black storm brewing over the league's contract wars. The aging union bosses have deliberately engineered a massive theater of sorrow. Their primary objective is brainwashing the masses into viewing them as downtrodden martyrs, ruthlessly crushed beneath the heel of wealthy tycoons. They actively feed off headlines drenched in absolute fury, endless bitterness, and the perpetual shadow of a looming strike. The well has been tainted so severely that the union's own upper management is secretly funneling desperate memos to ESPN, pleading for just a shred of honesty. Then you have this young prodigy stepping onto the national stage, practically glowing with an intoxicating, untamed happiness. Through that simple act of joy, she essentially incinerated the old guard's entire propaganda machine. Her radiant energy broadcasted a deafening signal to the deep-pocketed sponsors and broadcast giants. She is telling the financial world, "I am your bulletproof, high-end, zero-baggage golden ticket." While the union burns in its own chaotic desperation, she stands untouched as the ultimate international icon. Her mere presence obliterates the lie that venom is just a natural byproduct of the women's game. That poison is a complete fabrication, a synthetic weapon forged by a tiny, fiercely envious clique of aging stars clinging desperately to their fading empires. The labor bosses foolishly believed they could drag this phenomenon into their muddy trenches, using her gravitational pull to squeeze the billionaires dry. Instead, she simply slipped out the side exit, ascended to the most prestigious global platform imaginable, and forcefully rewrote the entire rulebook of leverage. If you want to grasp the sheer magnitude of this catastrophic blunder, you have to analyze their worth through the ruthless eyes of Wall Street. When playing a high-wire game of financial chicken, trying to run a cheap hustle on the uber-wealthy is a fatal mistake. You simply cannot pack up your bags and storm out when the giant across the desk knows you have absolutely nowhere else to go. Astonishingly, the veteran core actually convinced themselves they held standalone financial weight. They lived in a fantasy land where millions would magically flock to their screens to witness their traditional, starless brand of play. So, they took a massive gamble. They launched the unrivaled 3-on-3 experiment, a completely isolated bubble built for one specific purpose: to prove to the universe they could mint cash without the magic of Caitlin Clark. What happened next? A total catastrophe. Viewership numbers simply fell off a cliff the second the opening buzzer sounded. The audience noticed a certain number 22 was missing from the hardwood, and they flipped the station without a second thought. The bigwigs over at TNT, who had bet the house on riding the Caitlin Clark tsunami, suddenly found themselves staring into the abyss. Things spiraled downward from there. Franchise pillars, including Aaliyah Boston, went down with severe injuries during pointless scrimmages, laying bare just how dangerous and costly this whole experiment truly was. The seasoned pros threw their heaviest punch, only for the free market to hand down a devastatingly harsh reality check. Take Caitlin Clark out of the equation, and their value on network television drops to absolutely zero. But let us turn the page. Just witness the sheer explosion of energy the second the ultimate cash cow sets foot on the court. Pay attention. Keep your eyes on the squads while you all are observing. Angel is sinking those shots, my friend. Yeah, that happened fast. Caitlin just sank the final dagger. Caitlin literally sealed the match, man. Absolutely froze the defense. Unbelievable stuff. Caitlin Clark buries the clutch shot, and that split second right there, that is the foundation of an empire. That exact sequence is what makes a $2 billion broadcasting contract make perfect sense. We are talking about a once-in-a-lifetime prodigy who holds the entire international athletic market in the palm of her hand. You better believe league owners, Adam Silver, Kathy Engelbert, Joe Tsai, and Matt Ishbia are scrutinizing every frame of this national team tape and calculating the profits. For an ultra-wealthy investor, watching her nail a clutch shot during a simple scrimmage and breaking the internet does not just highlight an athlete. It reveals pure economic dominance, unparalleled bargaining power, and a goldmine that nobody else can replicate. So, if the union actually executes that massive walkout threatened for March 10th, the front offices will not flinch. They refuse to bow down because they recognize one cold, hard fact. The singular piece of leverage holding this all together is Caitlin Clark. Furthermore, she currently sits perfectly shielded from the disastrous implosion happening within the league. Should the 2026 campaign face delays or get scrapped entirely, the older guard will stare down the barrel of bankruptcy. Salaries will vanish, stardom will fade away completely. Those expensive apartments they forced management to pay for? The rent will bounce, and their historical impact will be wiped from memory. All the while, the rookie phenom remains entirely unscathed. Should the organization burn to the ground, she will just redirect her massive, deeply dedicated fan base straight toward the FIBA International Tournament Games, which happen to air on TNT Sports. Yes, the exact same channel that dumped the alternative circuit once they realized the older stars brought no return on investment, shifting billions of dollars just to lock down exclusive global broadcasting rights for number 22. The Players Association is sitting at a massive gambling table trying to bluff with an empty wallet. Issuing demands to tycoons while unintentionally proving they cannot draw a crowd without their first-year superstar is a level of business madness that truly defies logic. Let us expose the silent reality that traditional journalists refuse to cover. This impending walkout has absolutely nothing to do with standing up for everyday players. First-year talents and their representatives are pleading for an agreement, especially considering 80% of the roster remains jobless and desperate for a signature. Instead, this labor stoppage acts as a blunt instrument used by the old guard, trying desperately to sabotage an incoming tidal wave of success. Look closely at the mental games happening here. For years, the seasoned veterans reigned supreme over a tiny, closed-off, money-losing empire. They dictated who held power behind closed doors, forced newcomers into submission, and fiercely guarded the public storyline. But then, a certain guard from Iowa stepped into the picture. She absolutely obliterated television ratings, dragged millions of fresh eyes to the screen, bagged gigantic sponsorships from brands like Nike and Gatorade, and essentially turned the seasoned locker room leaders into ghosts, both socially and economically. The jealousy is palpable. They harbor a deep bitterness toward her fame, utterly disgusted that 2 decades of their hard work got completely eclipsed by a 22-year-old prodigy. And the thought of her sophomore campaign terrifies them to their core. Because she is returning at 100% health, perfectly adjusted to the pro game, and ready to conquer the sport exactly the way she wants to. Initiating a labor dispute is basically a radioactive strategy designed to rob this superstar of a prime season, mute the roaring new crowd, and artificially project that the old guard still pulls the strings. These leaders are ready to burn a $2 billion broadcasting contract to ashes, ruin the careers of their own peers, and trigger an economic meltdown, simply to stroke their own egos. However, the Golden Child just delivered a flawless counterattack. She trapped them in a corner, not by throwing a tantrum, but through sheer, profound grace and poise. Goodness, I truly feel that, this represents the ultimate fantasy for any hooper. I honestly believe I jotted this exact goal down back in the 3rd grade. Therefore, well, I am just thrilled to be given the chance. I recall Kara Lawson giving us a speech back in the day, when Paige and I, plus I know AB is missing right now, but hey, I even shared the court with Ryan on that under-19 squad during those youth international camps. She told us that only a tiny fraction of us would actually survive long enough to step onto the main stage for the adult squad. Therefore, whether we are talking about the global championship, the preliminary rounds for it, or even, the Olympic Games themselves, every tiny piece of this adventure holds profound meaning. Look, I realize the big tournament is still pretty far out, and the Olympic run is obviously distant too, but the vibe right now is electric, and it really is. Just pay attention to the absolute genius hidden inside those words. She frames the entire moment as nothing short of a childhood fantasy coming alive. This phenom bows to the legacy of the hardwood, walking the path of a true student of the sport, while radiating pure class on a massive global scale with every public statement she makes. Caitlin Clark is single-handedly tearing down the desperate smears thrown by the old guard, who are dying to paint her as a spoiled brat. These vets try to brand her followers as a menace, crowning themselves the righteous protectors of hoops culture, yet she refuses to wear their manufactured black hat. Instead of diving into the gutter for cheap shots, she steps into the international spotlight as the ultimate picture of poise. And by taking the high road, she pulls the curtain back on the Players Association's true colors, revealing a fractured, spiteful clique that prefers passive-aggressive games over actually growing their own empire. By taking her talents to the Team USA roster, the superstar has cleanly slipped right through the league's suffocating grip. These upcoming FIBA qualifiers are not just standard games, they are a worldwide broadcast spectacle. She is gearing up for do-or-die minutes on the court, surrounded by elite global talent and totally insulated from the backstabbing, the green-eyed monsters, and the childish feuds currently poisoning the WNBPA. Back home, the league's old guard is essentially holding a live grenade, swearing they will pull the pin on March 10th. They foolishly believe that threatening to burn the house down will force the deep-pocketed owners to wave the white flag. But the titans of the sport, Adam Silver, Kathy Engelbert, and the ownership syndicates could not care less about the bitter veterans. Their eyes are glued to Clark. Safely out of the blast radius, she is primed to conquer the international arena, skyrocket her personal brand, and print hundreds of millions of dollars for whichever network is brilliant enough to broadcast her. If the union triggers a work stoppage, they will absolutely not be hailed as labor rights champions. They will simply go down in history as the masterminds of their own brutal self-immolation. This move will vaporize their fresh audience, kill all momentum dead in its tracks, and give the boardroom zero choice but to gut the business model, permanently erasing any bargaining power the roster had left. When the dust finally settles on this standoff, the Phenom will still be the absolute center of the basketball universe. Those resentful players who plotted her downfall will find themselves staring at the bottom of an unemployment line, waking up to the cold reality that they just pulled off the most embarrassing financial suicide in the history of pro sports. The PR illusions have completely evaporated, and that fake narrative of a united sisterhood lies in absolute ruins. The sports industry is a ruthless, unforgiving beast. You either print money and move the needle, or you get ground to dust by the corporate gears. Alright, I need your take on this madness. Sound off in the comments below. Is this union really rolling the dice on a devastating lockout just because they cannot stomach Caitlyn's meteoric rise? Will the old guard actually pull the trigger and bankrupt themselves? Or are the billionaire bosses going to flatten them at the final hour? And exactly how astronomical will those global viewership numbers be when she wears red, white, and blue, leaving the league to burn to ashes? If you crave the brutal, unvarnished facts behind the cutthroat empire of athletics, the multi-million-dollar chess matches happening behind closed doors, and the harsh realities the network talking heads are too scared to touch, smash that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and blast this video across the internet. We do not do sugar-coated press releases around here. We drag the gritty, ruthless truth kicking and screaming into the light. Keep your guard up and I will catch you in the next breakdown.